Hey everyone, Lewis from Level 1 Gaming back with another review. This time it is Jitsu Squad. Before I begin the review properly, I have to give a disclaimer. This is the first time in all my time reviewing games for Level 1 Gaming to be put in this situation. During my review I encountered various performance issues including crashes and a soft lock of the game. So the review you are seeing here is the review as I experienced it. The publisher has stated that there is a day one patch coming, and we were advised that version 1.0.1 should resolve all the performance issues. Please check out our written review after December 10th, for I plan on updating the review. I unfortunately don't have the capacity to produce 2 video reviews, so the review that you see here is what it is at the time of publication. I will give a second score of what I think the game might be if all the performance issues are resolved. So just keep in mind that my score won't be final until after I get a chance to play version 1.0.1, and the link to the written review is in the description and it will get the final say. Now with all of that out of the way, let's actually get started with the review properly. Jitsu Squad is a beat-em-up game that takes heavy inspiration from fighting games and the fighting game community at large. The game is a love letter with a lot of self-referential humor to boot. Developed by Tanuki Creative Studio and published by Inin Games, Jitsu Squad started from humble beginnings as a Kickstarter campaign and launched earlier this year on PC. Now, the game is looking to make a second wave on console, but is the transition to console platforms graceful? Check out our review to find out. The game is a beat-em-up, so the story is not very involved. The story is straightforward. You play as the Jitsu Squad, a team of heroic warriors that fights evil. The plot centers around a legendary statue called the Kusanagi Stone that can grant godly powers to those that can awaken a demon within it. An evil sorcerer named Origami is seeking the Kusanagi Stone for their own nefarious purposes, and it's up to the Jitsu Squad comprised of Hiro the Raccoon, Jazz the Frog, Baby the Rabbit, and Eros the Hog to save the day. That's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. There is no need for further elaboration. The only thing I will add though is that there are guest characters that can assist you on your journey, namely a YouTuber named Maximilian Dude and an indie characters Yuka and Laylee. And cool cameos in video games never get old. Jitsu Squad excels and suffers in this category. First, the good. The game has one of the most amazing soundtracks I have ever heard while reviewing a game for this site. This is the gold standard in my opinion. Every song hits from the start, even in the main menu. Practically every song is an earworm. There was even a stage that takes place where the Jitsu Squad is surfing on lava, and the song on that stage had lyrics that perfectly accompany the situation. As a matter of fact, the name of the song is aptly titled Surfing on the Lava. The song is very much in your face and is a throwback to 80s punk rock. It is unfortunate that this is the only song with lyrics, but don't get it twisted. The songs for all the stages are catchy. Much like Street Fighter II had iconic songs for every stage, this game follows in that same vein to similar success in my book. The last shout out I want to give regarding the audio is the fighting game sound effects that they managed to sneak in without any legal issues. For instance, in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, you can play as Wolverine, and one of his moves is called Berserker Barrage. In the game, there are enemies with Freddy Krueger gloves that essentially function as Wolverine's claws. The enemy's main attack against you was Berserker Barrage, and let me tell you, I feel like the sound effects was straight up lifted from the game and was put in there. I'm pretty sure Capcom owns the audio effect. Either the team got permission and the license to use the audio file, or the developers recorded it themselves and made it sound as close as they can to the original audio. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. There were other sound effects that are like this example, and I hope that the developers did their due diligence to avoid any legal trouble. Now with all that good out of the way, it is time for the review to take a sudden left turn for the worst. Before I go into the really bad, I will say that this game seems to have the gain turned up a bit too much for my liking. When I review games, I exclusively play with headphones to control my audio experience from game to game. Typically, I set the volume to 50% since it's just me in a room and my headphones are 3D audio / noise cancelling, so I don't need them to be loud and I don't want to lose my hearing. With that being said, this game was very loud at 50%. I had to double check my headphones to make sure that they weren't at 100%. I ended up playing the game with my headphones at around 20%, and even then, I still think it was kind of too loud for me. I know it's a minor nitpick, especially for what I'm about to say next, but it does bear mentioning. Also, even if you don't want to turn down your headphones or turn down the volume on your TV, you could just go to the options menu and turn the audio slider down to your liking. From here, it only gets worse. Jitsu Squad has a lot of audio glitches. The game in general has performance issues, which I will get to in the next section, but these issues spilled over to the audio. Namely, there were stretches where the audio cuts off. The game went full mute for about 1 to 5 seconds sporadically, mostly after loading into a new stage or a new area within a stage. Also, the game has a stage select menu with a song that plays every time. In addition, the game has a bonus level akin to the bonus level in Street Fighter 2, where you have to destroy items falling from the ceiling to get the best score. The biggest audio glitch that repeated without fail during my time with the game was when I beat a bonus stage and then load into the stage select screen, and both songs were playing over each other simultaneously in the stage select screen. It was incoherent noise. The game was already a bit loud in my headphones, but listening to that every time I ended a bonus stage was like nails to a chalkboard. Individually, both songs were good, but overlapping them was not doing anyone any good. I'm very mixed on this section because this category is a mix between the soundtrack and the audio design. The soundtrack is superb and I give the highest marks. However, the audio design took a bit of a hit because of the performance of the game. Nobody wants to play a game like a silent movie, and nobody wants to hear two songs overlapping each other in the main menu. I'm of the mind right now that this game's audio issues distracts me too much, and I feel bad that the talented artists that made these amazing songs did so for a product that can't showcase it well. In this section, I always break the category down into two parts as well, which are the art style / graphics and the performance of the game, such as resolution and frame rate. Jitsu Squad has the first part nailed down. The game's art style is a cartoon, and a very violent cartoon at that. Animations are exaggerated, including facial expressions. The game leans on old school cartoon physics, and I'm all for it. The game's look definitely brought a smile to my face, especially with the Mortal Kombat inspired cartoonality that they did. As far as cartoon violence goes, this game has a lot of blood, and when you defeat an enemy, you kill them by slicing them in half, which is an appropriate animation to boot. The game is not gory though. The blood doesn't stay on the screen, and as soon as the character dies, their sprites disappear before they even get a chance to land on the ground. However, not all was sunshine and rainbows. Jitsu Squad has horrible performance issues. I should go ahead and say it here, but I was given the code to review on Nintendo Switch. Now I know the Switch is no powerhouse. However, there is no excuse a beat 'em up can't run on the Switch. This game is not taxing to run. I even checked the temperature of my Switch to make sure my hardware wasn't at fault. I am of the belief that this game was poorly optimized for the Switch. I would hope that the other ports are not experiencing these issues, especially with PlayStation and Xbox hardware having more power under their belts. As far as the performance issues in question, well, there are many, including assets failing to load in gameplay. Oftentimes a sprite would show up as a checkerboard box before loading in a few seconds later and replacing the checkerboard. This even happens at the beginning of a stage, which is very insulting because the game has really long load times on the Switch. The game would take about a minute to load one level, and evidently it didn't even finish loading because of all the checkerboard sprites all over the screen as it finishes loading. I would have appreciated a loading status bar so I could at least see where the progress was at. On top of issues with loading the game also frequently crashes. I stopped counting my crashes after 9. In the middle of playing a level, the game has to load in between various stages and environments. For instance, you might be outside for a part of the level, but inside a cave for the second part, in which case the game has to load a new area. The issue arises when the game has to stop to enter a loading screen and the game crashes and sends you back to your home screen. Crashes can also be triggered by just pausing the game and checking your move list. I have never had a Switch game crash on me, and this game did it to me 9 times over. The worst part is, I didn't even get to roll credits on this game. I was on the final level, and it was another situation where I had to load in between phases of a level, and then the game crashed. The good thing about this game's autosave feature is that if you quit suddenly, you can resume your game at the beginning of the phase of the level you were in. This works wonders for me for those sudden crashes, as I didn't have to lose any progress. However, now this feature is working against me because whatever issues caused the crash is now written into my save file, because every time I try to load that final level, I get yeeted back into my Switch home screen. I tried to work around the system by going back and selecting an old level to perhaps clear the cache of sorts, but even then that didn't work for me because the game was trying to load me back into the later part of the final level. Performance issues didn't stop there though. I played Jitsu Squad exclusively in single player and the game suffers from slowdown very badly. The game doesn't quite turn into a slideshow, but when there are so many enemies on the screen, the game slows down to a crawl as it struggles to render/process everything. The slowdown definitely ruined my timing for a bunch of combos. I can only imagine how much worse the performance would get if 4 players were playing simultaneously trying to input their commands. It should be noted that version 1.0.0, which is the version that I played, only supports 2 players, and that version 1.0.1, which is the day 1 patch, unlocks 4-player mode. Overall, this section is mixed, just like the audio, but this one leans way more negative than positive. I don't care how good your graphics and animations are, if your game can't even run and won't allow me to play the last 20 minutes of the game, then this section gets a failing grade from me. Despite the bad things I said in the last 2 sections, this section is positive. I only have one minor criticism/nitpick, which is really nothing in the grand scheme of things. As far as how the game plays, I used a Pro Controller, and every face and shoulder button was put to use. Double tap on the left stick in any direction to do a dash, A to jump, B for specials, Y for attack, X to attack with the weapons you pick up, L to activate your Fury state, R to grab, ZR to parry, and ZL to tag, which is only usable when tag mode is active. The game gets more complex from there because much like fighting games, there are combos and moves to memorize. It's not that bad though. The game is designed for a more general audience in mind, and as such, moves are programmed with Smash Bros. Input style. So for instance, a flying uppercut is executed by holding up and then pressing Y. No command inputs in this game. As far as beat-em-ups go, you can find assist characters that can essentially function as a screen nuke that wipes out all the enemies on screen. As a fighting game fan, I'm subscribed to Maximilian Dude, who is known for covering fighting games. Seeing him be a guest/assist character was awesome. For his assist, he is dressed up like Ken from Street Fighter, and he and his dog just throw out a Shinku Hadouken from the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Chef's kiss. I wasn't a fan of Ukulele's implementation. They only showed up once in the campaign, and they were one of the few characters that didn't get a screen nuke. Instead, they rolled around the screen knocking enemies over. They didn't even kill the enemies they knocked over. In my opinion, they were not a good assist, and it's a shame that they were able to get the license for Ukulele and didn't put them to good use. There are 2 other screen nukes that you have at your disposal. If you have the resources, pressing B nukes the screen. Also, if you have another resource, pressing L makes you go into a Fury state that makes you invincible and increases all of your attacks. It's not quite a screen nuke, but you can easily clear out a whole screen the old-fashioned way. The only nitpick that I have is the fact that moves get unlocked slowly, even during the last level. I understand that you want to trickle things out so as to not overwhelm the player, but you shouldn't be getting a pop-up screen about a new move that you unlocked when close to finishing the game. I also am not sure if I like the simplified Smash Bros. Inputs. I feel like this game wanted to have its cake and eat it too. The game is very much inspired by fighting games, so much so that in one of the levels, you fight in an arcade and you can read the names of the arcade cabinets in the background, including the names Final Flight, Guilty Bear, Samurai Motown, and Marble vs. Popcorn. Also, not a fighting game, but I did like Assassin's Creed. So with all the fighting game inspirations, why not go all the way and implement command inputs and customize combo trees? I can see both perspectives. On the one hand, beat-em-ups can be innovated and can be served up to a niche that would receive it well, but on the other hand, it would be alienating to the general consumer and they wouldn't engage with it. Another thing I want to nitpick is the fact that I can't change my character in between levels. It would appear that I have to start a whole new campaign in order to play as a different character. Also, this game doesn't have a PvP mode. Even Streets of Rage 2 on the Genesis had a versus mode. Nitpicks aside, this section was a win for me. Jitsu Squad has a lot of charm and a lot of love for fighting games, with so many direct inspirations being clearly visible in the game. There are a couple of things to note though. The game only features voice acting in cutscenes and opts to use text bubbles in levels. Also, the game loves to be self-referential for the genre. Every beat-em-up seemingly has to have an elevator level, and one of the characters commented on how much they love elevator levels. So it's the charming stuff like that that wins me over. Jitsu Squad is frustrating. I want to love this game. This game's soundtrack is amazing. The game clearly has a lot of love for fighting games and beat-em-ups. However, the game has performance problems that affect the ability to finish the game due to constant crashes. The game has audio and visual bugs throughout, and has issues running due to constant slowdown that affects the enjoyment of the game. This is a first for me because I'm going to give this game 2 scores. First, I will review the game as I played it. As it stands, I cannot recommend this as a product that someone should buy. Crashes are unacceptable. I was willing to let 1 slide, but 9 plus and being unable to finish the game, that's too much to sweep under the rug. I would have expected QA to catch that. So, I'm being generous and giving the game a 4 out of 10. However, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. I would hope that the PlayStation and Xbox consoles are not going to experience these issues. I also expect that since the game has been out on PC for the last 9 months, that there isn't any issues there either. If this day 1 patch truly is the end-all be-all it purports itself to be, then this game is likely to receive a 7 out of 10. Jitsu Squad is out right now on PC and will release on December 9th on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. Some marketing material includes the Xbox logo, but I haven't been able to verify if the game is coming to Xbox the same day as the other 2 platforms. The game retails for $29.99, although at current time of writing, the game can be found for $19.99 on Steam. A review code was provided by the publisher for purposes of review. This game was reviewed on Nintendo Switch. For more side-scrolling action, please check out our review for Bravery and Greed, and if you want to check out a cool game, then check out our review for Godstrike. You can find me on Twitter at Chocolaka88, and my podcast is Ready Press Play, where you can hear my thoughts on all things gaming. Also, you can find me on this YouTube channel every other Tuesday on Cogs in a Machine, where we do deep dives on specific topics, as well as every Wednesday on the 2XP podcast. So subscribe here for that and all the other cool stuff we do here as well. Thank you to Inin Games for allowing Level 1 Gaming to do the review. Thank you to everyone watching. I'm Lewis, and I'm signing out.